Okay, now I want to talk to you about fire retardant chemicals in mattresses. This segment, this video here is going to be a little lengthy. I'm going to get into a lot of detail. I'm going to document what I'm saying as best I can. I'm going to be very thorough. So if you're watching this, you might want to pause it for a minute, go get yourself a cup of coffee, pop some popcorn or something, because we're going to be here a little while. I do think this is one of the more important segments of information that I do for the consumers on my website. I'm very passionate about this issue. I'm very concerned about this issue, and I think you should be too. Keep in mind, I started producing my own mattresses December 2006, something like that. About 8 months after I started producing my own mattresses, the Consumer Product Safety Commission came out with new regulations requiring mattresses to be flame retardant. Now that sounds like a good feature. The mattress is now going to be safe from fires. However, of course, I'm a licensed bedding producer. I have to be compliant with all laws. So when I learned that they're coming out with this new regulation, I had to do a little research, try to figure out how in the world I'm going to make my mattresses compliant. And upon doing my research, I discovered that the only way mattress manufacturers, or the primary way in which mattress manufacturers are going to get compliant with the law, is to use toxic fire retardant chemicals in the surface materials of their mattresses. And what that means is of course they use chemicals because it's the cheapest way to get compliant. There are alternative methods that are safe, but those methods are expensive. So very few mattress manufacturers are going to do it the safe way. They're going to do it the cheap way. Now, since the Consumer Product Safety Commission is going to regulate mattresses being flame retardant, prior to coming out with a regulation, they did a risk assessment. I have a copy of this risk assessment here. It says here, quantitative assessment of the potential health effects from the use of fire retardant chemicals in mattresses. And in this report I have a copy of, and you're not going to find other retailers or furniture retailers tell you about this subject. They do not have safe mattresses to sell you. There's no labeling requirements. So when you buy a new product, you don't have any idea what you're getting. And unless you've done some research or stumbled upon my video or other research on the internet, you're likely not to know anything about this. So you buy a new mattress and you're sleeping in toxic substances in all likelihood. Now, of course, I've culled out of this report a few pages that I want to show to you and to illustrate it. In this report, they list the chemicals that the mattress industry will be using. I'm going to read to you what their own report says about these chemicals. Now, the first chemical listed here is ammonium polyphosphate. It says here in their report, there were no available data on subchronic or chronic exposures, pharmacokinetics, carcinogenity, reproductive, developmental, or neurological effects. So, with ammonium polyphosphate, they're admitting to you they have no clue how this is going to affect your health. But a mattress manufacturer is free to use it and are likely to use it. That's why they're putting it in the report. The next chemical listed here is antimony trioxide. Antimony is heavy metal, like mercury and lead, heavy metals, and it's more toxic than mercury. And antimony trioxide, by the way, mimics arsenic. And it says here in their own report, antimony trioxide would be considered toxic under the Federal Hazardous Substance Act. So they're admitting to it's a toxic substance, and it could be in a mattress if you buy a new mattress. The next chemical listed here. Oh, by the way, I want to step back and talk to you a little bit about antimony trioxide. Like I said, it mimics arsenic. Now, I'm going to tell you a lot of stories in my presentations because these are experiences that I've had dealing with different customers and so forth. Now, one Sunday I was at home and I got a phone call from a friend of mine who happens to be a chiropractor, And I had educated the local chiropractors in my area about the fire retardancy in mattresses. He was somewhat aware, but not aware of specifics. So he wanted to call and ask me a specific question about the chemicals that are mattresses. So when he called, he said, "Are any of the chemicals used in mattresses arsenic?" And I said, "Yes. As a matter of fact, antimony trioxide mimics arsenic." And he said, "Well, it's interesting. The night before, he was out to dinner with some friends, met an individual. They were talking about some health issues. This individual that he met had severe fatigue. He was tired all the time. And he had been to doctor after doctor after doctor and finally got diagnosed with having a high level of arsenic in his body." Well, the chiropractor, being somewhat aware of the chemicals, happened to ask him, "You haven't bought a mattress recently?" And he said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, about 3 months ago, and that's when his problems began, his fatigue issues." So the chiropractor began wondering if maybe there's arsenic in mattresses, so he called me to ask. Now, the interesting thing about that, let me be more specific, is that this was a married man. His wife slept in the same bed. She had no issues, seemed to have no problems of fatigue issues. Now, everybody is not going to respond to the chemicals the same. He may absorb them more because of the way he's sleeping on the mattress, or he may sweat, which causes his skin to absorb them more. So he's getting a higher dose than her, or his body may be less tolerant of it than hers. It is interesting that they didn't respond the same, but was the antimony probably what was in the mattress causing the problem? Definitively, I don't know, but it is interesting that he did associate it with his mattress. Now, the next chemical is boric acid. Boric acid is commonly used as roach killer around your home. And it says here in their own report, it says boric acid meets the definition of toxic under the Federal Hazardous Substances Act. So they're using boric acid as a flame retardant. And I would submit to you that probably that's the most used fire retardant chemical, is boric acid. I don't know that for sure, but I just have a suspicion that is. That and formaldehyde. And I'm going to talk about formaldehyde in a minute. Now, this is another interesting, because not just a few months ago, I had a man come to my showroom and was talking about mattresses. He'd done some research, and he said that he had a friend who had some severe health issues with his mattress, and he had a high level of boric acid in his body. He finally discovered through going through several doctors. Well, he was unique because he was sleeping face down on the mattress, so he's absorbing it by breathing it in more heavily than he would if he slept on it another way. And they diagnosed that the boric acid was coming from his mattress. Now, the next chemical is deca-bromidiphenyl oxide. They call it DECA for short. It's a bromide. I'm going to show you what that means. It's very important to pay attention to this one. DECA, and it says here in Consumer Product Safety Commission's own report, deca-bromidiphenyl oxide meets the definition of toxic under the Federal Hazardous Substances Act by virtue of its chronic organ system toxicity. So it's chronically toxic to your organs. Now, more specifically, the organ that it's destroying is your thyroid. Now, Dr. Mercola, he is a physician that has a website, and he specializes in educating the public and selling to the public products that are healthy, natural products. You know, I guess their view is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So they're trying to educate the public on natural ways to take care of your health and natural ways to cure perhaps health issues that you have. Now, I found on their website an article, and it says here, avoid this if you want to keep your thyroid healthy. Bromides are a common endocrine disruptor. And it says here, fire retardants used in fabrics, carpets, upholstery, and mattresses. Now remember, the chemical is deca-bromidiphenyl oxide. It's a bromide. And they admit it is an organ destroyer, and Dr. Mercola here is documenting that it destroys your thyroid. So when you buy a new mattress, if it has DECA in it, you absorb it every night, which I'm going to show you is true. out of the Consumer Product Safety Commission's own report, that you absorb it, and it's destroying your thyroid little by little. The next DECA, after DECA, there's one more chemical. Well, let me find the sheet here. Yes, melamine. Now, about 5-6 years ago, there was news reports about pet food coming from China that was killing the pets, or seriously sickening and killing pets. Well, they discovered it's melamine in the pet food. Well, guess what? Melamine is a fire retardant chemical, and in the Consumer Product Safety Commission's report here, it says melamine is considered acutely toxic. Then there's vinylidene chloride, and it says here in the Consumer Product Safety Commission's report, vinylidene chloride is considered toxic under the Federal Hazardous Substance Act. And the one chemical not listed in this report is formaldehyde. Now, most people know what formaldehyde is. Formaldehyde is a known carcinogen. In fact, the FEMA trailers that the federal government issued down in New Orleans after the hurricane for people to live in, the trailers were treated heavily with formaldehyde to make them flame retardant, and guess what? These people were getting sick from it. So can you imagine sleeping in a mattress that has formaldehyde in it? And I would submit to you that a very large percentage of memory foam mattresses manufacturers are using formaldehyde to flame retard their mattresses. And I have 2 pieces of evidence to suggest that's true. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Now, the Consumer Product Safety Commission admits that the chemicals are toxic. The next question we need to ask is, if it's in the mattress materials and it stays in the mattress materials, well, that's fine, but the question is, does it get into our bodies as we sleep on it? Well, the Consumer Product Safety Commission in the report does have a chart here for the amount of chemicals that you absorb. This was on page 232 of the report. This chart here lists 3 of the chemicals that I just talked to you about. One of them is antimony trioxide, which is heavy metal. The second one is boric acid, and the third one is deca-bromidiphenyl oxide, the stuff that destroys your thyroid. Notice it says here ADD stands for average daily dose. So your average daily dose from sweat dermal absorption, your average daily dose from oral ingestion, and your average daily dose from inhalation or breathing it in, for a total, you're going to absorb 0.8 milligrams of antimony every night. 0.08 milligrams of boric acid, which is roach killer, and 0.07 milligrams of deca-bromidiphenyl oxide, the substance that destroys your thyroid. Now, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, in the end of the report, concludes that even though the substances are toxic, even though you absorb it into your body, you're not absorbing enough to make you sick. Well, it's interesting because since July 2007, when this law went into effect, I've now had, after 6 years, I've had 63 people testify to me that they've gotten sick from a new mattress. Now, the overwhelming majority of these people, of course, are getting sick immediately. They're having an allergic reaction or chemical sensitivity to the chemicals, and they know very quickly that it's coming from their mattress. So a small percentage of the people are having an allergic reaction or a reaction of some sort immediately, and they know it's coming from the mattress. The overwhelming majority of us, our bodies are going to tolerate the chemicals. But what's the long-term effects of absorbing these chemicals every night? Are we going to develop health problems 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And we're not going to know it's coming from the chemicals, or the source was the chemicals that are in our mattresses, because you're not going to attribute it if the symptoms show up many years later. Well, I had to do a lot of research, and I discovered a lot of stuff through the process of trying to get my own mattresses compliant. In addition to learning about the chemicals, I also learned that the large mattress manufacturers in this country, you think of big manufacturers, Sealy, Serta, Simmons, Spring Air, Tempur-Pedic, Stearns & Foster, and many others. Well, large mattress manufacturers have an association, and it's called the International Sleep Products Association. It's a lobby group that works to lobby on behalf of their members. Now, the International Sleep Products Association does not disclose who their members are. So you can't find out which of those large mattress manufacturers are actually members of ISPA. But, you know, I kept thinking to myself, most of the customers that come into my showroom, when I show them the chemicals that are being used and that they do indeed absorb them, and then I have testimonials of people getting sick, the overwhelming majority of consumers would prefer not to have a flame retardant mattress if it means sleeping in chemicals. So they prefer the minute risk of dying from a mattress fire than the risk of sleeping in chemicals. But the Consumer Product Safety Commission didn't seem to care what the consumer wanted. They didn't bother to ask. They didn't even bother. They could have simply made the mattress manufacturers to offer flame retardant mattresses, like a line or whatever of flame retardant mattresses. But instead, they just said every mattress sold in the United States must meet these strict standards. So they didn't seem to really care to offer anything to the consumer other than to sleep in chemicals. Another thing that makes me suspect, you know, when you buy a new mattress, it has a law label on it. And on the law label, it'll list the materials that the mattress is made out of. So if the mattress is made of latex, it has to list on the law label latex. If it's got cotton fibers or horsehair, or, you know, because you won't find that very often today, but way back when, mattresses had horsehair in them. If it has polyurethane foam, it must list polyurethane foam. Now, the Consumer Product Safety Commission could have easily required mattress manufacturers to list on the law label what chemicals they use. In fact, I think it's important because what if you're allergic to formaldehyde? There are some people that are allergic to formaldehyde. Wouldn't you like to know when you buy a new product what's in it? The food labels, they require you to put on the food label what's in the food, so when you're consuming it, you can find out what you're consuming. Well, if you're absorbing chemicals from your mattresses, what the Consumer Product Safety Commission admits, wouldn't it be important to know that there's formaldehyde in a mattress if you're allergic to it? They did not require mattress manufacturers to disclose what they use. So it begs the question, are they really looking out for the consumer, or are they looking out for some other interests? Well, I contend they're looking out for other interests. And the reason I say that is because through doing my research, I learned that the International Sleep Products Association supported the new regulation of fire retardancy. And I kept thinking to myself, why in the world would large mattress manufacturers support making mattresses flame retardant if it means mattress manufacturers are going to have to use chemicals? Why would they support this? Well, it's my contention that through the association, large mattress manufacturers have reaped a benefit from this. You must understand it's very expensive for large mattress manufacturers to get compliant, or mattress manufacturers to get compliant with the new law. Large mattress manufacturers can absorb the costs of getting compliant, but a small manufacturer, a small mom and pop type manufacturer of mattresses, it'll put them out of business. So maybe large mattress manufacturers through ISPA have lobbied or paid off the Consumer Product Safety Commission to pass a regulation that benefits them. And now I will admit that it's a little bit presumptive to say that large mattress manufacturers in some way have influenced, perhaps even paid off, members of the Consumer Product Safety Commission to get regulations that benefit them. So I need a little evidence to support that theory. Well, I've done a little research and I found a couple articles that I think that support this theory. This is an article written in Furniture Today, written May 16th, 2007, so a month and a half before the new law regulation goes into effect. It says here, this is out of Mulberry, Florida. It says here, top 100 store chain W.S. Badcock said today it will close its bedding factory rather than make a major expansion that would be required to meet the new federal flammability regulations. And what you have to understand is that W.S. Badcock was a furniture, or is a furniture and mattress retail chain. And they made their own name brand mattresses through their own manufacturing facility. Of course, it's going to be a very small manufacturing facility. So they're closing their bedding factory. And it says here, Babcock said it will begin outsourcing all mattress manufacturing to International Bedding Corp., a top 10 bedding producer. So we have an example here of a small mattress manufacturer closing its facility and giving its production business to a top 10 bedding producer, International Bedding Corp. So you have a large mattress manufacturer that's getting more business. You have a small manufacturer that's going out of business or closing its factory. So that suggests that my theory is correct. This was done to benefit large mattress manufacturers while small manufacturers close down. That's not enough. I do have another article. This was in newsreview.com. They're interviewing Richard Lash, who's the owner of a Square Deal mattress factory in Chico, California. In the article, he admits that he's using boric acid to meet the flame standard. But there's three paragraphs here worthy of noting. It says the new fire standard will cost mattress manufacturers more than $100 million per year to implement, and it's the most expensive change the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission has ever made, according to a report by Consumer Affairs. The cost will be too much for some small companies to absorb, Lash said. He's confident of his own factory's survival, but he is concerned the codes will be the death of other small mattress companies. Then it says there are currently 600 mattress manufacturers in the United States, and the new safety codes could eliminate a third of them. So here's another piece of evidence that large mattress manufacturers are going to reap benefits from their small competitors going out of business. So no wonder the International Sleep Products Association supported the new flammability regulations. It benefits large mattress manufacturers who are members of ISPA. Now, what's interesting, though, I had produced a video on the subject on the internet several years ago about this, where I had read and shared this, and a fire retardant chemical manufacturing plant owner called me, or he emailed me and said he would like to talk to me, left his number. I called him. We talked for about an hour, and in the process, he's trying to tell me that the chemicals are perfectly safe. He says he said he was a producer of boric acid, and he says it's perfectly safe. It kills roaches, and the Consumer Product Safety Commission admits that it's toxic, but he says it's perfectly safe. Well, interesting, through the hour conversation I had with him, I learned that he's a member of ISPA. He's a member of the International Sleep Products Association, the organization that supported the fire retardant regulation. Well, it's a huge benefit to chemical manufacturers. So they're part of ISPA. I believe lobbied the Consumer Product Safety Commission. When I say lobbied, it's not like lobbying Congress. They didn't lobby. They paid them off. That's my contention. Think about it. The Consumer Product Safety Commission does not represent the consumer. You don't vote them in of office. You cannot vote them out of office. You didn't hire them. You can't fire them. So do they really represent the consumer? No, my contention is, like a lot of organizations or government agencies, they represent whoever's paying them. So the Consumer Product Safety Commission, especially in this instance, I submit to you, is not looking out for the consumer. Think about it. Does it add up? The consumer doesn't want fire retardant chemicals in their mattresses once they know about it. They'd prefer the minute risk of a mattress fire. The Consumer Product Safety Commission did not require mattress manufacturers to disclose what they use. So if a consumer is allergic to one of those substances, they have no way of finding out if it has it in there, and if they're going to have an allergic reaction. They have to learn it the hard way. They have to buy the mattress, get sick, and discover it the hard way. So does the Consumer Product Safety Commission look out for the consumer? No. These two articles suggest, I think, that they've been bought and paid for. Now, every time I talk to a customer, like I said, I mentioned 63 people now have testified to me they've gotten sick from a new mattress. This is over a 6-year period. Most people have the ability to tolerate the chemicals. But 63 people in 6 years have testified to me getting sick. Now, the overwhelming majority of these people are getting skin rashes from exposure to the chemicals. The second most response is some type of respiratory breathing issue. Now, every time I talk to one of these customers, I always ask them if they'll write me a testimonial. And I've gathered about 10 of those people testify to me to getting sick. It is, I think, interesting. 2 of these 63 people have testified to me that they were allergic to formaldehyde, and they bought a particular name brand, and it made them sick. The same way they get sick exposed to formaldehyde. Now, Mr. Poole here hand wrote me a note, very detailed. This is a 2-page note documenting the details of him getting sick from a new mattress. Now, when he came into my showroom floor, he told me he bought a Tempur-Pedic mattress, and he didn't even sleep in it. They brought it into his home, set it up into the bedroom. He walked in, the smell started to make him sick. He was nauseous, headachy, and shaking. This elderly gentleman called the retailer that he bought it from and said, "Would you please come and get this? There's something in this mattress making me sick." And of course, the retailer knows that Tempur-Pedic mattresses, memory foam mattresses, and most new mattresses have very strong chemical odors about them. And if you keep them long enough, the odor dissipates and you get used to them. Well, he asked them, "Please come and get it. It's making me sick." They took a week to come and get it. The reason they took a week is because they're hoping that you'll get used to it and just keep it. They don't want to take it back. It means refunding your money. So they'll just let you get sick for a week. And he begged and begged, and it took him a week to come and get it. He stuffed blankets underneath the door to keep the smell from coming into the rest of the house. He slept in another bedroom for that week until they got it out. He said after they got it out, they had to put a fan in the window to air out the room. He testified to me that he's deathly allergic to formaldehyde, and that his symptoms were the same as when he's exposed to formaldehyde, what he was experiencing from this mattress. And I told him, I was like, well, actually, formaldehyde is a flame retardant chemical that could be used. Well, he was emphatic in saying, that's what's in that mattress. I know my symptoms. Formaldehyde is a form of formalin. Now, if you go to Tempur-Pedic's website, they claim they don't use formaldehyde, and I guess they don't. But it's interesting, 2 people that are allergic to formaldehyde testified to me they got sick from a Tempur-Pedic the same as if they get exposed to formaldehyde. I'm not saying they use formaldehyde, but formaldehyde is a form of formalin, so perhaps formalin is a substance that's in the mattresses, and Tempur-Pedic can get away with saying they don't use formaldehyde, because most people know what formaldehyde is. Formaldehyde may or may not be the most used fire retardant chemical in mattresses in the mattress industry, or it's boric acid. Some other manufacturers may be using something else. Now, again, I want to be very thorough in presenting this. And when you're not going to get this information from your average furniture or mattress retail store. The average salesman doesn't know anything about it, and if he does, he's not going to tell you, because if you learn about it, you can easily go to the internet and do some research and find out what these chemicals are and that they're toxic. So they're not going to tell you anything about it. Now, I want to be sure not to give you the impression that I'm the only one telling you this. Now, there are actually news reports on television, usually local affiliates, that are reporting this information. Now, I have gathered a news report by CBS 2 Chicago. Now, this is a CBS affiliate in Chicago that did a news report on workers in Simmons manufacturing facility, and they're getting sick. I want you to see that. Now, I'm going to break in from time to time and respond to some of the things that are being said to try to clarify what's going on. But please watch this so that you'll know that I'm not the only one making these claims, that these chemicals are toxic. And I'm also this is going to illustrate very well that the industry's hiding something. So please watch this.
Something in your mattress that's supposed to save your life make you sick. New regulations went into effect this summer, designed to save hundreds of lives. Medical editor Marianne Childers, though, talked to some people who believe they carry a risk, begging the question, what might be in your mattress?
The new standards make mattresses more fire resistant. They'll still burn, but not as fast, because they contain more flame-resistant or FR materials. But could the chemicals that make you safer make you sick? One environmental medicine specialist says yes.
We have not adequately studied these chemicals in relation to children, the unborn, the pregnant woman, the elderly.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission says no way.
The CPSC would have never passed a rule that allowed certain materials to be used that would harm consumers.
Now I need to break in here for a minute and make some comments. Julie, the spokeswoman for the Consumer Product Safety Commission, says the Consumer Product Safety Commission would never pass a rule that would harm consumers. Well, I think I've already illustrated to you that they could easily be bought and paid for, and why. So it's quite possible that Julie here, she may be telling the truth as far as she knows, because she's just a spokesperson. But the evidence suggests that they did pass a rule that would harm consumers, because I've had too many people testify they've gotten sick from a new mattress, and they didn't. Again, they didn't care to disclose to the consumer what they're buying. The mattress manufacturers do not have to disclose. So I don't for a minute buy that the Consumer Product Safety Commission would never pass a rule that would harm consumers. Why wouldn't they? I mean, they don't represent consumers because you can't fire them. They're unelected. They're appointed, and when they're there, you can't get rid of them if they're passing regulations that don't benefit the consumer. So I don't buy this for a minute. But this gets more interesting. Keep watching.
To handle these materials at the Simmons mattress plant in Janesville, Wisconsin, believe FRs are causing them health problems.
As more of the FR material is being used in the mattresses, I noticed sinus problems and breathing problems and sharp pains in my chest.
The employees complain of irritated eyes, chronic sore throats, bloody noses, respiratory problems, and painful skin rashes.
We all know that we didn't have any of that before we started using the material.
In response to employee concerns, Simmons hired independent testers. They found no levels of anything that violated government safety standards. But when we asked what was in their mattresses, the company did not want to tell us specific materials other than Kevlar, which is known to be non-toxic.
We don't want to put our recipe out there.
Now I have to interject here because the spokesperson for Simmons, Jonathan Daw, here says that they don't want to put their recipe out there, as if they have some proprietary recipe for making their mattress flame retardant. As I've shown you, they're using one or a combination of 5 or 6 different chemicals, and they don't want the consumer to know what chemicals they're using, because you know today you can go to the internet, look up the chemical, and find out what it is, and find out that it's toxic. They don't want you to know that they're putting toxic substances in their mattresses. So to say that it's a proprietary piece of information that they don't want their competitors to know what it is a bunch of nonsense. Their competitors probably using the exact same chemicals they're using, and they're not telling you either because they don't want you to know what chemicals are being used. The Consumer Product Safety Commission doesn't want you to know what chemicals are being used because the report I used is something that most people don't even know exists, and there's no labeling requirements on mattresses, so there's no way for you to find out what's in a mattress. So it's not a proprietary mixture or recipe of fire retardancy. It's a piece of information they don't want you to find out about. Keep watching.
Employees might be reacting to soaps and detergents and fabrics, and says the company provides protective gear for those who request it. But if employees are having problems, could you?
I don't see any concerns for consumers with the components of our product from a health and safety standpoint.
Both Simmons and Serta told us they've tested their materials for years, and they pose no risk.
We've proven that it's safe to our employees, it's safe to the environment, and it's safe to the consumer.
Safe to the consumer. Al here says that these chemicals that are being used are safe to the consumer. Well, tell that to the 63 people that have testified to me that they've gotten sick from a new mattress. It's not safe to the consumer. If it was perfectly safe, they disclose what they're using. They don't disclose what they're using because they know darn well that you can find out that it's not safe. This is disturbing. These people are not honest. Either that or they're completely ignorant. The proof is in the consumer and how they respond, whether or not they're getting sick, and the proof is also in whether or not the consumer wants it. When the consumer knows all the facts. They don't tell you all the facts. They're hiding the facts from you. So don't give me this nonsense that it's safe to the consumer. They're not concerned about the consumer at all. They're concerned about their own they're concerned about their own benefits financially and keeping the consumer in the dark. Keep watching, it gets even better.
But this mattress maker disagrees.
I've looked to try to find a non-toxic system, and I don't believe any exist.
Mark Strobel makes mattresses at his Indiana factory with minimal flame retardant. Since 2003, he's been campaigning against what he considers dangerous toxic overload.
They are, in fact, using boric acid, which is roach killer.
Serta says boric acid is in one of the FR fibers the company uses, but it's safe.
If you eat too much boric acid, it becomes poisonous. But no one's eating boric acid. No one's eating their mattress.
No one's eating their mattress. So Al here says the only way you're going to get too much boric acid is if you eat your mattress. Well, I've already proven to you using the Consumer Product Safety Commission's own report that you absorb boric acid through your skin and you inhale it. And again, I also had a customer tell me about his friend who had an overload of boric acid because he slept face down. He was breathing it in heavily, so he was getting a large dose of it from breathing it in. This is overblown deception by Al. They have to make it out to be as if there's no way boric acid is going to hurt you when there's evidence, perfectly good evidence, that the contrary is the case. Most of us indeed will absorb too little to harm us in the short term. But if you're absorbing it every night over a 20-year period, what's it going to do to your health? I mean, it also has a cumulative effect with all the other things that we're exposed to in our environment. Why do we need to add to this in our mattresses to make our mattresses flame-proof when the Consumer Product Safety Commission says they don't need a flame-proof mattress? And by the way, stay tuned because I'm going to show you the Consumer Product Safety Commission's argument as to why they made mattresses flame retardant, and I'm going to show you that it doesn't even add up. It does not save anyone's life. So if it doesn't save anyone's life, using common sense, using their own argument and common sense, you'll realize that's not why they did this. So I don't trust these people when they're claiming it's not, it's perfectly healthy. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says it's healthy because perfectly fine or perfectly safe because you're not going to absorb enough. I just know that most consumers prefer not to have the chemicals at all. They don't need a flame retardant mattress. More on that later. Keep watching.
FR materials are inside mattresses. They form a barrier just under the cover or ticking. The CPSC says to the extent that FR chemical treatments remain bound to or within the mattress, exposure and its attendant risk would be minimized. But Mark Strobel is convinced it can get out as mattresses wear.
It's close chronic exposure. You're laying there with full body and breathing contact for your entire lives.
Others fear that what's considered safe now might not be down the road, such as lead and paint or asbestos.
Asked them about the long-term effects, and they said that, the government wouldn't mandate anything, that would have long-term effects, that they knew about. And I said, the government's not always right, I don't think.
An OSHA report on the Simmons plant is pending. The company's confident that OSHA will find nothing wrong. Employees, incidentally, spoke anonymously to us because they don't want to lose their jobs. Even though the materials do not have to be listed on labels, by law, manufacturers have to tell you what's in mattresses, but you have to ask them. The only way to get a chemical-free mattress is by prescription. And if you want to know more about what you're sleeping on, go to our website, cbs2chicago.com. Be sure and click on health. Rob Van?
That's a good thing to talk about because I'm sure people don't think about it until you raise the issue like you did tonight.
It's interesting to check the website.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, that CBS affiliate news report is very good, I think. It's worthy of noticing what some of the workers at the Simmons plant were experiencing. And I think it's worthy of noting the deception or the secrecy that's going on in the industry. But here's the other thing that you need to understand. The Consumer Product Safety Commission claims they're going to save 70 lives a year with this new regulation. Now, there are 300 million Americans, perhaps even more than that, in the United States, and it's going to save 70 lives a year. Now, my first thought was, well, what are these 70 people doing that's risky that the rest of us have to sleep in chemicals to save their lives? But as I did more research on it, I learned a little bit more about what their argument was, and as you'll see, the argument is completely faulty. It's merely an argument to justify what they're doing, and what they're really doing is protecting large mattress manufacturers in the chemical industry. Now, here's what you have to understand. Each mattress manufacturer, this is the reason why mattress getting compliant with one of the reasons why getting compliant with the mattress flammability regulations is so expensive. Now, each mattress manufacturer must submit a sample mattress to a UL testing facility where they set it on fire. Now, what they do is they put 2 propane burners to the surface of the mattress for 70 seconds. So that's over a minute. Now, you know how hot a propane flame would be. And my first thought when I read that is like, who's using a torch in their bed? For crying out loud, why such a hot flame to the surface? When I learned a little bit more, I realized what they're trying to do is they're trying to mimic a house fire. So your house is already on fire. It spreads to the bedroom and gets to the mattress. They claim because the mattress is no longer a source of fuel for a fire to spread. In other words, when it gets to the mattress, it'll spread so slowly that it'll give you more time to get out of your home in case of a fire. Now, most common sense will tell you that the overwhelming majority of fires start from a heat source, electrical source, or other source of fire. So let's say it starts in the kitchen. Let's say it starts in the bathroom or the living room where you have a stove or fireplace or something like that. So your house is on fire. And by the time it spreads to the bedroom, the mattress being flame retardant is going to save your life? No. Most people die from smoke inhalation. So if you're not already out of your home by the time it gets to your mattress, the mattress being flame retardant is not going to save your life. This is a faulty argument. But this is an argument the Consumer Product Safety Commission hopes they can use to pull the wool over your eyes while they're protecting large mattress manufacturers in the chemical industry. Again, like I said, the overwhelming majority of people would prefer a chemical-free mattress than the minute risk of the mattress being flammable will cause them to die. It is extremely remote that that's going to happen. Especially using the argument that the Consumer Product Safety Commission uses. Now, I'm going to be extremely thorough. I know this has been a little lengthy, but I do want you to keep watching because actually Katie Couric on CBS Evening News had 2 segments on the chemicals being used in our products and how they are toxic to consumers. And I want to share that with you. So stay tuned and watch this. This is 2 segments. The second segment is more important than the first segment, but you do have to watch the first one because what you're going to see in the second segment is, again, special interests in the chemical industry doing things for its benefit to the detriment of the consumer. Sit back and watch this.
For decades, we've all depended on special chemicals to protect us from fire, but now there are serious questions about the safety of those chemicals. Already 2 states have banned them, and 6 more are considering it. Wyatt Andrews has our exclusive report.
She grew up on this island off the coast of Maine, but when Hannah Pingree had her blood tested, she found 19 different flame-retardant chemicals in her system.
You know, it makes me angry that I could have a child the next couple years who would be impacted by these chemicals in my body.
If you have it.
If I have it,
living here.
You have it, we all have it.
We all have it because for 30 years, flame-retardant chemicals, hundreds of millions of pounds of them, have been embedded in furniture and consumer products in an effort to slow down fires and reduce deaths and injuries. But scientists are now raising red flags about the widely used brominated flame retardants called PBDEs.
I am concerned about developing children.
Linda Birnbaum, a senior toxicologist at the EPA, is concerned because PBDEs cause the kind of health effects in young animals that are warning signs for infant humans.
They can affect the developing brain and they can affect the developing reproductive system. There is very limited evidence whether or not they can cause cancer.
This is concentrating in human beings, just like PCBs.
Maine state toxicologist Deborah Rice, a former EPA scientist, once studied PCBs, toxic chemicals banned in the 1970s. She now compares them to the chemical DECA, the one PBDE still produced in America.
I concluded that DECA was toxic.
Did you come away believing that these chemicals are capable of causing brain damage?
Yes, they absolutely are.
Okay, let me interject here. Remember, I read to you out of the Consumer Product Safety Commission that one of the chemicals that could be used by the industry is DECA. It's DECA bromodiphenyl oxide. It's a bromide. It's a brominated chemical, and they admit it destroys your. They admit that it's harmful to your organs. And of course, I read to you an article by Dr. Mercola that says that DECA destroys your thyroid. Now, this report here, Deborah is saying, builds up in your brain and it causes other problems as well. So when you buy a new mattress, you don't know if you're getting DECA, and it does, the Consumer Product Safety Commission's own report does admit that you do absorb DECA if you're sleeping on a mattress that has it. So here's a report that's going to tell you that DECA is terribly bad, it needs to be banned, but it hasn't only been banned in 2 states, Maine and Washington. The rest of the country could quite possibly be using DECA in many of your consumer products, including your mattress in which you're getting very intimate with every night and spending 8 hours a day of your life in. How would you like to be absorbing something that is accumulating in your body and destroying your thyroid? So I just had to interject and remind you what DECA was. That's what they're talking about here. Keep watching.
Like other industrial chemicals, brominated flame retardants build up inside the human body. These chemicals are now in our furniture, cars, electronics, children's products, even in our food.
We think the time for a ban is now.
As young as she appears, Hannah Pingree is the House Majority Leader in the Maine legislature, which last year voted to phase out DECA. She was alarmed by evidence PBDEs are found in polar bears, in eagles, and in human breast milk, where they pass from mother to child.
They come into our bodies, they build up in our fat tissue, they're in the natural environment, and they're very, very difficult to get rid of.
Kids are swimming in fire retardants.
In a report to be released Tuesday, Russell Long of the environmental group Friends of the Earth documents how products like this car seat can contain up to 9% bromine, which might explain why Americans have 10 times more of these chemicals than anyone on Earth.
These are ridiculous amounts of fire retardants to be putting into these car seats when there's perfectly safe ways of getting fire safety without the chemical use.
In a matter of minutes, fire can destroy a home.
The bromine industry, which declined our request for an on-camera interview, has stressed in its ad campaigns its chemicals are necessary to save lives.
Tell them we can't take a chance on fire safety.
In a statement, one manufacturer, the Chemtura Corporation, says hundreds of studies have concluded that DECA BDE was safe for continued use. The industry argues there is no conclusive proof of harm to humans.
To sit around and wait for the chemical industry to admit there was a problem would be waiting too long.
The EPA is completing a safety review of DECA, and 6 more states are considering bans. The question is whether DECA's ability to slow down fire is now outweighed by evidence it's toxic to animals and showing up in humans. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, North Haven, Maine.
All right, now please watch the second segment of this news report. The second segment played the next night. This is really interesting because they show how their special interest is producing neutral sounding safety groups try to convince the consumers that these things are good for you. If the chemical industry is producing this, then it's for their benefit. You can't trust them. So the neutral sounding safety group is a ruse. It is a complete disguise to try to convince the consumer. Watch this. This is fascinating. And I kind of hope that this is further illustrating what I've said before, that the Consumer Product Safety Commission has been bought and paid for by special interests. Things are not as they seem on the surface, and you have to dig a little beneath and know a little bit more about what's going on, so you'll understand what exactly is happening here. The chemical industry is bombarding us with their chemicals, and it's making us sick. And I'm trying to tell you that you do not want to sleep in a mattress that's treated with fire retardant chemicals. But anyway, watch this next segment. It's fascinating.
Last night that some of the flame retardant chemicals in the products we use can be hazardous to our health. Researchers have been pushing for a ban on these chemicals, but as Wyatt Andrews reports, the industry is pushing back.
For the last 30 years, to slow down fires, manufacturers have infused millions of pounds of brominated flame retardant chemicals into upholstery, electronics, and children's products. But some chemicals called PBDEs are leaching out, building up in people, and are toxic in animals.
They can affect the developing brain, and they can affect the developing reproductive system.
EPA senior toxicologist Linda Birnbaum is worried about the chemical DECA, the last PBDE made in America. It causes serious health effects in young animals, a red flag, she says, for humans.
I am very concerned for the human population.
So far, 2 states, Maine and Washington, are phasing out DECA. 6 others, including California, are considering similar bans. Despite the growing concern over flame retardant chemicals, the industry, along with groups supported by industry, is lobbying to increase the use of chemicals in a wide range of consumer products.
Fire can destroy a home.
For example, to fight the state bans, the bromine industry creates neutral-sounding front groups, like this one, Californians for Fire Safety, to argue that DECA is safe and saves lives.
We can't take a chance on fire safety.
Did you catch that? The chemical industry creates its own neutral-sounding front groups to argue that the chemicals are necessary for fire safety. Wait a minute, the chemical industry created the front group. It's a ruse. It's a complete ruse. It is self-promotion with deception, trying to deceive the average public, to deceive the public in that this is a good thing when it's being produced by the chemical industry. This is not a good thing. It's deception. It's horrible, is what it is. Keep watching, because you're going to see more of this, and I'll interject here and there just to make a few comments, but just keep watching.
Another example, when the Consumer Product Safety Commission proposed new standards for furniture without requiring the use of any fire retardant chemicals, another group close to industry, the National Association of State Fire Marshals, began lobbying for standards that would require chemicals.
That's a serious issue for us.
Fire Marshals President John Dean says his group is not pro-chemical, just pro-safety.
We just don't want to put ourselves in a position of losing more lives and property.
But critics point out the marshals have accepted money from the bromine industry and shared a lobbyist, Peter Sparber and Associates.
Is there a conflict there where you're sharing a lobbyist with the chemical industry? No, I have not seen it to be a problem.
I hate to laugh. John Dean here looks like a deer in headlights when they ask him the question, do you think there's a conflict of interest? There is a conflict of interest. They're sharing a lobbyist, and this quote-unquote safety group, Fire Marshal Safety Group, is being funded by the chemical industry. Well, I'm sorry, that completely, in my mind, eliminates your objectivity. There is no objectivity. You're just simply working for the chemical industry, and he looks like he's been startled with the question. Do you think this is a conflict of interest? Oh, I don't think it's a problem. The heck, it isn't a problem. I'm hoping I'm piecing this together to show you that there is a great deal of deception being done in this industry for the chemicals and large mattress manufacturers, specifically with the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It's just more evidence of showing you there's lots of different examples of this kind of thing going on. Keep watching.
Here's who does see a problem: the nation's firefighters.
You think the Fire Marshals Association is too close to the chemical industry?
Well, it concerns me. And
Harold Schaetberger, who leads the union representing almost 300,000 firefighters, opposes brominated chemicals because they create toxic fumes when they burn.
There's other ways to provide time and to inhibit flame spread without using these products that I think are unnecessarily dangerous.
Some companies like Dell and IKEA have already phased out brominated chemicals. The bromine industry, which declined our request to go on camera, says studies show DECA is safe. But after 30 years of our literally sitting on PBDEs, most warnings suggest we walk away. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Woodbridge, Virginia.
Okay, I know this is a little lengthy, but I'm hoping you appreciate all the diligence I've done in putting all this information together for you as a consumer, so that you know what you're dealing with and what is actually going on. One other quick little thing I want to point out. Furniture Today, I mentioned before, is a publication put out for the furniture industry. There's an article in Furniture Today saying it's time to set the record straight. FR, or fire retardant solutions, are deemed safe. This is written by the executive editor of the magazine. And of course, through this article, he claims that it's perfectly safe. These FR solutions are perfectly safe for the consumer. It's ridiculous for someone to claim that what's being done to the mattresses is unsafe for the consumer. Well, what's interesting about this article is right beside the article is an advertiser. Right beside is an advertisement for Tempur-Pedic. So I contend it's interesting. They know that this is not good for consumers, but they have to report that it is okay for consumers because they have to protect their advertisers. So even quote-unquote independent reporters or writers of articles, you have to look beneath the surface and realize they're protecting their advertisers. Of course, they're going to claim it's safe. I think that's a little interesting. Now, the reason I'm sharing all this with you is because there is a loophole, thankfully. There is a loophole in the regulation that says that a consumer can buy a chemical-free mattress by prescription from a doctor. So if your doctor prescribes for you chemical-free, and it's obvious that they have to have this loophole, because the simple fact of the matter is if you're allergic to these chemicals, or if you have severe chemical sensitivities or immune deficiencies of some sort, and your doctor may of course recognize that you shouldn't be exposed to chemicals, they have to have a little loophole in the law so that there are people that can get mattresses without fire retardancy. Now, I'm sharing it with you because I produce my own mattresses, and when I read the regulation that had the loophole, I realized that I can offer you a mattress without fire retardancy. The goal, I mean, the object for a consumer is, of course, to find a manufacturer of mattresses without fire retardancy. The overwhelming majority of mattress manufacturers are scared to death of the Consumer Product Safety Commission because it's an $8,000 fine for each mattress that's sold that's not compliant with the fire retardant regulation. So mattress manufacturers have been scared into making their mattress flame retardant. Once I read the regulation, I realized as long as I acquire a prescription from my customer's doctor prescribing chemical-free, then it's legal for me to sell you something that doesn't have fire retardancy in it. I think it's important for you because you do not want to sleep in these chemicals. This industry is not worth trusting. The Consumer Product Safety Commission, when they claim that it's perfectly safe, it's not worth trusting. Their report is biased. It's biased for whoever's paying them off. You want a chemical-free mattress. I wouldn't sleep in it. I don't think you should sleep in it. There's plenty of people that are out there raising red flags saying this is a problem. If you put all the evidence together, I think you'll see that it's a problem as well. Thank you for spending the time watching this. I hope this gives you the incentive to pursue looking at my mattresses, because they are chemical free. And again, all I need from you is your doctor's name and fax number. I fax to them the prescription form, they sign it, they fax it back to me, makes the sale legal, and I help prevent you from sleeping in toxic substances. Thank you for watching.